Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 89 of Wise Wednesdays with RK. My guest for today is Ronit, and her mission is to help others live authentically, unafraid to show up as the absolute best version of themselves. She has unshakable belief that every person, when given the right tools and support, can overcome their challenges and lead a fulfilling life of happiness, purpose, and positivity. She's an experienced educator, motivational speaker, coach, therapist, and businesswoman. And she is the founder and the creator of the Smile System. I bumped into her over LinkedIn when she was doing a presentation, and that's an interesting story that we will get into. But without further ado, I bring to you Ronit, and we are talking today about toxic positivity. So, welcome.
Hello, and welcome. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm
Yes.
really looking forward to our conversation because whenever we do speak, we always wish we were recording it, don't we? Because it's
Yes.
beautiful diamonds of everything. So now we're actually here live. It's very exciting. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for saying yes. And I do understand that you've had a packed schedule and so grateful that you've been able to take the time out for this conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So, we are today talking about toxic positivity. And before even getting into toxic positivity, I would like to understand what is your definition of positivity, for that matter?
That is a really good question. And it's something that I'm on a daily basis very aware of, that inner struggle in terms of the positivity that we think we need to be showing up with versus what we're actually able to do. And I've had lots of conversations with people over many years where they've said, I'm so sick of always being told to think positive. I'm so tired, I'm broken. The first time I had a really big conversation with somebody was when she lost her husband. And she said, no positive thinking is going to help me out of this, And it really stopped me in my tracks and made me think, like you just asked such a powerful question. What does positivity actually mean?
Yes.
And for me, it's about finding a way forward that is healthy, finding a way through whatever's going on that lifts my spirits, that supports me in overcoming or getting through to the other side of whatever challenge is there. That's kind of what it means to me, finding and having those tools and the ability to stay strong within myself and to be able to move forward in a healthy way. What does it mean to you?
I like that. I like when you say healthy way. For me, positivity is about, helping the other person through a situation, being that cheerleader, perhaps. But then also identifying when it's okay to not cheerlead and let them kind of walk silently, because I've guilty as charged. I have been that person, who's wanted to to jump on board and help people because I didn't understand what they were going through.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a long time ago, but I didn't understand what the other person was going through. And so, with all good intentions, I rushed around to cheerlead, but that's not what they needed at that time. And so, possibly what I was giving them was toxic positivity. No wonder we don't talk anymore.
No. I mean, I love that. And I am a very positive person. And part of why I started working in the realm of positivity was because everyone used to say to me, I love talking to you. I always feel so much better after we've spoken. I feel like I can take on the world after we've spoken. Anything is possible when I'm around you. And that was why I moved in that area. So I became this champion, for years, it was all about being positive and finding a way forward and not sitting in the negative. And it becomes toxic when you're suppressing your emotions, when you're not allowing yourself to feel horrible.
Exactly.
And then you feel guilty when you're feeling something that isn't positive. We feel this
True.
pressure, the pressure to always be happy. And that's not real
Hmm.
for me anyway. It's not sustainable on a continuous basis. And if you then believe that you have to be positive, what are you doing to yourself when things are going hard and you're not allowing the other emotions? You're not allowing yourself to process and acknowledge all the others. So I love what you said about cheerleading and also being silent. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful quality that you have, Rukia, is just allowing space
Thank
and
you.
silence.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe I should just say silent about that then. And I like when you say process emotions. Sometimes the pressure is for ourselves that we have created, and sometimes the pressure is from outside, where people expect you to be a certain way. So people expect that if you are a coach, you might not be having bad days. You might not be having days where you've slumped, you've had low energy, or you just don't feel like showing up. That happens too. So I think above being whatever you are playing, whatever role you are playing in life, you are a human being, and human beings have feelings, and we need to respect that.
Yeah. And an interesting thing I wanted to pick up on from what you said is, who has that expectation? Because
Hmm.
you were saying that if we're a coach, then our clients have the expectation that that we'll be always positive and good and strong. But that's our expectation of what a coach is, right? We put our expectations on ourselves as much as what other people expect of us.
Correct.
Do they expect that? Is it okay to show vulnerability?
Hmm.
Is
So,
it okay?
yeah, sorry,
No, it's
sorry.
fine.
So, when does it turn toxic, and what could be some um, alarms that, signs, telltale signs that it's becoming toxic?
I think it's such a good question, that it's a really, really powerful question, and it's going to be different for different people. You know, um, the real tell is when you start to feel depleted.
Mm,
When you are positive and tired, they don't go together. When you're playing at being positive and uplifting and upbeat, and you're saying all the right things, and inside you're dying or crumbling, right?
mm,
That's incongruency. Sometimes we have to pretend, we have to show up in a particular way, because if you walk into a business meeting and you're feeling all crumbly inside and you're not upbeat and uplifted, it's not going to go very, very well. So you do sometimes need to flip the switch. And often it's one of the coping mechanisms, isn't it? To
mm.
raise your vibrations and to feeling positive is to just do it.
Yep.
But the toxicity comes in, I think, when you are denying yourself on an ongoing basis to feel the other things that are going on for you within. I caught myself doing that today.
Mm,
I was on the phone with somebody who knew what a day I was having. Things today didn't go that smoothly. It was a brilliant, productive, packed day, but my pressure levels and my stress levels were very high.
mm,
And I was talking to her, and she'd been with me. We were in a meeting from 10 o'clock till around 2:15, planning for an exhibition. It was an intense meeting, and we were dealing with lots of different things. And she knew the pressure that I was under earlier today. And somebody came into the room and came to say hello and said, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "I'm really good," right? Because
mm.
on the one hand, I'm really good.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I really wasn't. I was really carrying so much pressure. And I said, actually, that's not the whole picture. That's not entirely true. I'm really good, and I am
Mm,
feeling stressed and stretched. And I'm more stretched than stressed, if I'm honest, but I can feel it all bubbling under the surface. And I've got this nervous energy, but actually, I'm really good. It's all exciting. So
I
I
love that.
allowed myself to be true and authentic.
Mm,
And you know what happened? it's like something flipped. A bit of my load lifted the minute I allowed myself to acknowledge what was going on. And she went, "Oh, wow, I hope everything sorts itself out for you." Or whatever it was that she said, I don't even know. But it was just so liberating to be able to be okay with not being okay.
Right. And as you say that, for me, it feels almost like a weight lifted, a weight to perform, or a weight to be good, really good, in that conversation lifted, and there was an allowance to just be how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
And I think
And
that toxic positivity is a thing. And, that's when it's dangerous, when you don't allow yourself that.
and guilty as charged. I've done that too, and I did that for months at a stretch. Were struggling with the loss of my dad, and ticking off projects, because my plan had been that, once the children leave for university, I would focus on myself. So I had set the ball rolling on a few things, and the plan had been to come back and focus on that. Unfortunately, things went a different way, but all these projects that I had kind of put my hands in began to then demand returns, or demand the next step forward. So I started ticking those off, and doing as best as I can, and pretending everything was fine, while inside I was screaming for help. And sometimes you do that for your family because you want your family to know that you're fine. Sometimes you do that for your children because you want your children to know that you're coping fine. Your parents, my mom. But what I realized is, as I put up this mask of positivity for my children, while they could see through it, they played along. And in the long run, it also impacted them, not really in the best way, you know. So if only I had the courage to kind of say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and just own what I was feeling, which was grief, which was loss. Well, we learn.
Me too, indeed. And I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes, it is. It is life changing. It is something that you really need to kind of. I really don't know what to say. It changes you forever. It definitely changes you forever. And what also helped me was my smile strategy. And interesting. Let me confess. Let me confess.
I know what's coming.
Of course, it was coming.
Are you confessing on my behalf as well? You can.
Oh,
I
no,
think
no.
it's go on.
So we both are giggling because I bumped into Ronit's profile on LinkedIn, and there she is, the founder of the Smile System, and I'm like, hey, but I have a smile too. And I went up and literally snooped up on her website and checked out, and what is she talking about? But it looked very familiar, very connectable, but I couldn't really understand what it was. So she was doing a webinar, and I attended the webinar, and it was very interesting because she has this beautiful system that I will invite her to share. And that's when I realized there's more than one smile. I mean, everybody has their own. And I felt felt embarrassed that I did that, but I felt so connected to her and her work and her philosophy. So I was like, we got on a call, we booked a call, we got on a call, and the first thing I did was to confess. And so I'm gonna do. That's why I thought I should do that one more time for everybody to know.
My turn.
Go for
So,
it.
Rukia, you connected with me on LinkedIn, and I got excited, and then I looked, and then I looked, and then I looked again, and I was like, smile strategist. And I caught my breath, and my heart started beating, and I was like, what? And I stalked you a little bit as well to see what you did, and I watched your amazing videos, and part of me was like, she's so good. Damn. She's amazing. She's got this beautiful, gentle, incredible way about her. Wow. And then she arrived onto my Zoom, into my webinar. And I was like, oh my goodness, the pressure. But actually, being the people that we are and seeing the world of abundance that we live in, and
Yeah.
I am an advocate for positivity in spite of everything that we're talking about, because there's a way to do it, but wanting to make the best and the most out of the situation and turn it into a real positive, we just embraced each other, didn't
Yes.
we? Not physically, unfortunately, because we're worlds apart,
We'll wait for that.
literally countries, but yeah, that's coming one
It's
day.
coming.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, it was just incredible to then meet after the webinar and share more in-depth insights into where your smile is from and what your
Yes.
mission in the world is, and how similar what we're doing is, and yet also unique and beautiful in their own
Exactly.
ways, all
Exactly.
using a smile.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when I came into the webinar, it was more out of what can I learn. I think somewhere along the line, when browsing and understanding more about you, I did realize that yes, she's speaking about the smile, but let's find out more. I came in with that mindset, and if you remember, I didn't speak much at the session. I in fact didn't even bring up smile strategist because I wanted to respect your space. And then we got on the call and it was so beautiful. So tell us about your smile system.
What do you want to know precisely? There's so much.
So how does that help? How does that help in relation to toxic positivity? How do you apply that to kind of ward off toxic positivity?
So
Let's bring the two together.
interestingly, I think I need to give you a little bit of the story of how Smile came to be,
Yes, please.
because of positivity. So I spoke at an exhibition now nearly nine and a half years ago. It was called Gateway to Wellbeing, the exhibition. And I spoke about how to stay positive when things go wrong.
Mm.
Right? It was on the 18th of November 2012, how to stay positive when things go wrong.
Mm.
And I was talking for 20 minutes. And as an educator, I want to make sure that anyone who's in a space who's hearing what I'm talking about leaves with something that's going to make a difference and improve something in their lives for them, or help them to transform in some way,
Right.
transformative for them. And I kind of brainstormed all of my ideas on how I stay positive, and came up with a take-home way for them to remember, like a framework or a tool, and that was Smile. I used Smile as that tool.
Mm-hmm.
So each of the letters, like yours, stands for a practice or a principle or a skill to support somebody to stay positive no matter what you're facing or what you're going through, because life is full of ups and downs. Life is hard
Yes.
in certain ways. And hopefully not all of the time, but it depends. We can be going through a long period. At the moment, the whole world is still going through what it's going through with the pandemic and the economy. There's so much pain and hardship, that to have a tool that can support us to stay healthily positive
Like
is
that.
kind of what the
Yes.
talk was about.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I created, it was literally at that point, just do this with the
Hmm.
S, see things differently.
Right.
Look at your perspective. The M, master your mindset,
Hmm.
which is all about your thoughts and how you process what's going on, and then how you then feel and behave. The I is about inspiration,
Yes.
and feeling inspired again and connecting to that positive energy that comes from inspiration. The L is about letting go, and how complex that can be as well
Oh,
in
yes.
terms of moving forward. And then the E is about embracing life's journey and the process that we're going through, because
Hmm.
all the things we're going through are part of our own process of becoming the best versions of ourselves, our purpose, basically. So that is Smile. And at the talk, somebody said to me, where did you find that?
Hmm.
I've never heard it before. And I said to them, I made it up.
Hmm.
Which I did for the talk, obviously inspired by all the things I'd learned and taught, and kind of experienced along the way, the books I'd read. It was all through inspiration of other people who'd gone before me as well. You know, it's not, it was just through connections, isn't it? And one of the ladies in the audience said, I need to learn this. Can you teach me? So with her, I started coaching. I literally created coaching for each of the different modules that I talked about, and it evolved from there. I've written a book since then. So yeah, that's my smile journey, and I'm sure you've shared it with your audience, but I love hearing your smile
Super.
as well, your story. So have you shared it before?
Oh yes, every now and then, because it somehow when we have the speakers come on board, there's something that they speak about that just kind of lets it come in and make a presence. So here we go again. Um, 2016 was when I created mine, and this was created for the TEDx stage. I was speaking about how you get from feeling stuck to unstuck using gratitude and acceptance. And I said, acceptance comes when you smile, wherein S stands for silence the mind, M is manage your attention, I identify the intention, L let things go, and E is energize the possibilities. And
Love, love, love.
thank you so much. And you know, I've spoken about this to across different countries, and I'm sure you've had the same experience. You speak about it, you share it with different people, different kinds of people, different lifestyles, etc. And the one that they highly struggle with is L, which is
Every
letting things go every time, everywhere.
mm-hmm.
Gosh, so I'm actually glad both of us have the same L, because that's what we definitely need, right?
Yeah.
So
It's so difficult, isn't it, to be able to let go, and to
yeah,
you can't move forward if you can't let go of.
no. I think as you say that, what comes to my mind is even when you're walking, you can't take the next step forward without lifting the other from the ground. You have to let go of the security of the ground, and then you move forward. And then the next foot, that's the only way you move forward. You can't really, unless you're a kangaroo and you're jumping on both the feet, but let's not even go there.
But you then still have to elevate. You still have to, kangaroos still, in order to move, you've got to lift up. I keep waving
Yes,
my hands in front of the camera. I didn't realize how much I'm moving my hands. Of course, on
you're
stage,
doing,
it's not a big deal, right? But when you're on
yeah.
camera, I'll just sit with him calmly in my lap. Um,
No, please go ahead. I like doing this too.
yeah, no, letting go is not so simple, but I love that analogy that you gave, is that you, in order to jump or step or whichever, you have to elevate. You've got
Yep.
to let go of the security and the stability to a little extent, even if just
Hmm.
a little bit.
Yes. And coming back to toxic positivity, um, when do you know? Okay, looking at it from the external person's perspective, because you hear so much of motivation around you, everybody's talking positive. So when is a good time to let the other person go and have their own space and bubble of feelings?
Hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts on that? I think I think putting yourself in their shoes, coming from a place of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes empathy works much more better than just that positivity,
Mm-hmm.
and giving the other person space. Also realizing that everybody goes through a situation their own way. You know,
Yeah.
I've known people who go through massive losses and they just literally drown themselves in work, and they pretend that they're fine and everything is, everything's cool. But then something happens, they fall ill, because that's their body telling them to slow down or acknowledge what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when they have their breakdown. And it doesn't have to be that way for everybody, but I'm just sharing that these things also happen.
I think you're right. I think acknowledging that everyone goes through things differently is massively important in terms of being the support that we want to be for other people.
Hmm.
It's not about us. The way we go through whatever we're going through is unique to us. No two people experience the world in the same way. So to truly be there for somebody and to support them, you've got to let them do it their way, right? You do you is a saying that I hear bandied about quite a lot at the moment. You do you and I'll do me. And it's not always used in a positive context, but I think that it is a positive idea. You know, if you realize that and to communicate that, how do you wish for me to support you right now? What can I do to help? Not just pushing it on somebody. You know, I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and it left me absolutely, I was very triggered and so reactive after the conversation, which was an interesting exploration for me to go through, because I was like, whoa, that is a huge response to what was actually a really caring conversation. And it triggered me. And what she said was, you aren't passionate about X. It was to do with my reflexology, because as well as being a coach and a smile trainer, I am also a reflexologist. That's what I started doing when all of this came to be. And she said, you're not passionate about reflexology like you are about smile, or like I am about what I do. And I was like, excuse me, how do you know where my passion lies? How do you know how I feel about anything? That couldn't be further from the truth. It's this, we don't know how other people are feeling. Ask, don't assume. And, you know, as the point that you made about putting yourself in other people's shoes, that is so powerful. And that's one of the things I work through with people in the L, in the letting go. You know, which I guess is what we're talking around it anyway. And that is that to not only ask the person, but to realize that they're going through a whole bunch of stuff you don't know about. Correct. You're only getting a moment in time, a snapshot of what somebody's going through when they share with you whatever's happening. But they've got all the hours in the day that came before they saw you and all the stuff that's coming afterwards, and you're speaking to them for a moment in time. Correct. So I think that that's quite important. And if you know, I am somebody that always tries to look for the positive in a situation. I'm guilty of it, like you know, that is what I do. I can't help being that way. I don't want to stop being that way. It's really been supportive for me. And the way I have come to explain it in an easier, more authentic way is that I'm solution focused.
I like that.
Right? So positivity for me, back to the question you asked at the beginning, is also about being solution focused. But at the same time, and that puts tremendous pressure if that's all you do. I've spent years just doing that. And again, not allowing myself to feel what needs to be felt in that moment where things aren't going so well. And at the same time, to be solution focused. So that you do move forward, but you're authentic with it. Authenticity is a very big thing for me, because we spend a lot of time not being true to ourselves.
Yes, and I think that also comes from the need to people please.
Absolutely.
Or to be accepted, actually, to belong.
Yeah.
To not be considered the odd one out or weird, as people might call it.
We want to fit in, right? We want to belong. You know, that need for belonging is one of those Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a huge one, the need for belonging. So anything that compromises on that, we shy away from, and it's such a pity.
It definitely is. It's almost like saying we all have to be the same, right? And then we say we're unique, and to add to that, what I say is we're all unique, and that's what makes us the same.
Yeah, love that. I love it. Every time you say that, I get a little giggle. It's so clever.
Thank
We're
you.
all identical in our uniqueness.
Oh,
What?
yes.
We're all identical in our uniqueness.
Yes, we are. So, when did you, I mean, tell us a little bit about you and your journey as the educator. Did you always know this is what you wanted to do, or did you make a shift? How was it for you? How's the journey been for you?
Um, I want to talk about a part of my journey that isn't necessarily about the educator side of it, but possibly what maybe it's what got me there in the first place, I suppose,
Yes,
before.
please.
When
Yes,
I
please.
was a little girl, I was massively insecure. And the need for approval was huge. The need for belonging was immense. I always felt like people looked at me funny. I was never fully fitting in anywhere. And I compensated by being quite not silly. I was never silly or a clown. I was always very well behaved, very much followed the rules. I'm a rule follower. I like to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly,
Mm.
by the book. And internally, I'm a little bit of a wannabe rebel, but I never quite get there. I never did any of the naughty things, but I maybe wanted to a little bit just to have fun. But I was massively insecure.
Right.
And my friend's mother, and actually she's become a business partner, this friend of mine in Smile. She's in South Africa. Her name is Lisa.
Lovely.
And her mum stood me in front of the mirror when I was very little. And she had me sing to myself. I was full of insecurity. I hated my figure. I felt uncomfortable in my skin. I was very, very awkward, very, very insecure. And craving love and approval. And she stood me in front of the mirror and made me sing to myself. I love myself. I think I'm grand. I take myself to the movies and I hold my hand. Do you know that song?
Mm-mm.
I
I
wrap
wish I
my
did.
arms around my waist, and when I think I'm getting fresh, I slap my face. I love myself. I love myself. I think I'm grand. I'm so sorry to your audience, to your listeners. I'm a terrible singer. But it was this song where I had to stand up and sing to myself that I loved myself.
And that's
Which
why I said I wish I knew the song.
Mhm. I sang it
We'd
for
sing
you.
along. Thank you.
We can in a minute. But I cried often when I tried. Well, I cried then. It was very uncomfortable. I hated it.
Mm.
But what it did for me is made me realize that self-love and appreciating who we are in the world. And I didn't know that at the time. It took years of seeking approval for me to suddenly land on that realization that we need to be proud of who we are and to love who we are in a way that isn't ego based. I'm not talking about thinking you're better than everybody else, but this is just appreciating your unique gifts, appreciating the things that only you can bring into the world through your being.
Mm.
And it came to me over time, and I forget this a lot as well when I'm still seeking approval, because I think it's in my wiring. I can't help myself. I think it's, but that's
Look,
all. Thank you so much. Wow. It's yeah. Thank you so much, Saeed.
yes, yes.
um,
Thank you.
so it started back then when I had that experience, and somebody did for me this beautiful act that was life changing, even though it wasn't in that moment. Right? It was awful in that moment. But years later, I was like, I want to do that for people.
Mm.
I want to help people to see who they are, to see that I say this as well in my book, and often, when I talk, and I've forgotten, so thank you for the question. If only you could see yourself the way that I see you. I'm inspired by people. I'm inspired by who they are, what they overcome on a daily basis just to get through the day. I'm
Mm.
inspired by their outlook on the world, by their perspectives, by how diverse everybody is and how colorful the world can be because of it. I'm inspired by all of those things, and I want to show people the mirror. I want to walk them to that mirror and go, look at you. Can't you see this person in front of me? You're amazing. You're inspiring. You're beautiful. And I think, Rukia, that's why I became an educator in a way, because you can't teach that to people. You've got to give them the tools. That's what education means to me, is giving somebody the tools so that they can do it themselves. And that's underpins everything that I do in all of the different roles that I play in the world.
And you see that in people because they are a reflection of you, just as much as you're holding the mirror for them.
We are.
Aren't we? Because you wouldn't identify kindness in a person if you didn't know it within yourself. You wouldn't identify honesty in another person if you wouldn't know it within yourself. You wouldn't identify love in a person if you wouldn't know it within yourself. And so all the people that you've been holding the mirror against are actually mirroring back to you who you are.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Do you know, we speak about the mirror, and I talk about it often in terms of reactive stuff as well, and judgments. But yeah, you've put it across so beautifully. So thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
that's definitely what struck to me about you in all our conversations: the authenticity, the humility, the fact that you you own what you're feeling. And that's, I mean, yes, I've a lot of people, I mean, in fact, everybody that I invite on the show are people from my circle of genius, as I like to call it. And I invite them when I have a rapport with them, when I have a connect, when I feel something that draws me in to have this conversation, and I say, would you be okay to come on the show? And they beautifully oblige. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? They somewhere the connect is there because we see each a bit of ourselves in every the person that we are able to connect with. So thank you for being
Absolutely.
that person.
And thank you for seeing that in me too. Back at you, right back at you.
Thank you.
One of the things that makes me really sad is that people can't see it within themselves. And I'm not always good. I have a lot of people who shine that mirror back at me. They hold it up, as you did, as you do. And I have people in my world who do that. We all need our cheerleaders, as you called it so beautifully,
Yes.
to show us who we are in spite of what we're going through.
True.
And I'm so sad when people can't see that within themselves, and they're racked with anxiety and depression and all of these insecurities and these beliefs about themselves, which we hold space in what we do, don't we, for them to explore this and to see it. We shine that light on all of those things to get them to be curious about the beliefs that are driving them and the impressions they have about themselves and the expectations, all of those things. That's what we do. It's such a privilege.
Yes.
Able to hold space for people to investigate and to be curious around those areas. But the saddest thing of all is that people can't see their genius or their unique light, as I call it, or their wisdom. And it's so wonderful as we do the work that we do to see this flower open as they start to step into their power. And when I talk about power, it's authentic power.
Yes.
It's
Not from ego.
permission. Yeah, permission to be you. If you shine your unique light uniquely, if you shine your light that's uniquely yours in this world, your way, with it not holding back, coming from a pure place, there's nothing more beautiful. That is true power.
True that.
Yeah.
And I am a little lost right now because that was definitely so powerful. Thank you.
Yes.
You when we started out, we spoke about toxic positivity. We spoke about how people hold back from sharing their emotions or feeling, even processing their emotions, because of the expectation from others to always be positive and all. So understanding that emotions have to be processed, what could be certain things that people do to kind of go through what they need to go through?
Beautiful question.
Thank you.
So, what steps can people go through in a way, is what you're asking, to
Yes.
process
to
their
to
emotions?
process their emotions, yes. I mean, um, that expectation of positivity is there. It won't go anywhere. But how do you kind of look past that expectation so that you can be with yourself and your emotions?
So, one of the things I wanted to say before I got carried away on my little tangent is that positivity, I feel, and I would recommend, is an aspiration,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Aspire to be positive, aspire to choose positivity. Let it be a choice, not an
Hmm.
expectation. Expectation comes with so much pressure. So, I choose to be a positive person,
Hmm.
right? Is very different from pretending I'm not, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yes.
I coached it wasn't so little, a 14-year-old boy who was suffering very badly from depression.
Mm-hmm.
His mum brought him to me for some smile coaching, and he said to me something that really shook me to the core, and it was amazing that he was doing the smile program the way that I work through it, because he was right at the very beginning, and he said, I choose, no, he didn't say I choose, he said, I expect the worst,
Hmm.
because then I'm never disappointed. And if
Ah.
something good happens, then that's a bonus, but I expect the worst. And that saddened me, and it made sense. I can see how that's a safe option. You've got that, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person?
Right.
And I then just said to him at the end of the first session, it's very interesting that you're choosing that perspective.
Hmm.
And for him, at the end of 6 sessions of coaching, when I said, what was the thing that stands out for you of all the things that we've covered? Like, what's your nugget from this? He said that I was choosing to be negative. 14 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I would say, the first step, the first tool to processing your emotions is to choose a perspective. Choose to see your emotions as something neither good nor bad. Stop judging
Hmm.
what you're feeling. We're conditioned to not be angry,
Yes.
right? You're not allowed to scream. And, I spoke to another coach about this, and she said, I'm struggling with you telling me I should accept that I'm feeling angry. But you're feeling it.
Yeah.
It's what you do with those emotions that defines you as a human being, not that you're feeling them.
Hmm.
You have to feel them. That is how we process what's going on for us in the world. So to firstly accept and acknowledge what you're feeling.
Hmm.
Step number 1, without judgment,
Right.
without expectation. Acknowledge it. I'd probably then suggest to sit with it. You have this beautiful, I don't know how, you express it as just being silent with it. Sit with it. The most amazing insights and gifts come when you sit with what it is that you're feeling.
True.
And if your commitment is to being somebody who shows up positively in the world, which is my commitment to myself, to my being, then that sitting in that emotion I can't be there for too long. We're not talking about wallowing in it. The more you sit in it, if you don't find a way through, then you can become very, very low and very down. So
Right.
it's about sitting with it with the view to processing it, to acknowledging it, to allowing it to be, to
Hmm.
seeing it as something that's transitive. Emotions are energy in motion. right?
Yes.
They move through us. What I think happens for so many people is that we're such emotional beings that we hold on to the feeling, right? And then we sit with it and we wallow in it and we are angry for months and months and months because we just don't let it go. We
Yes.
don't find a way to release it. Or we're anxious, right? And that anxiety takes hold. And for some people, it can last for days on end because there's no way to release it unless it's a choice that we make. You have this ability to rise above the way that you're feeling.
True.
But I believe it's toxic when you do not allow yourself to feel it in the first place. And that's when positivity becomes toxic.
Correct.
If you're constantly rising above the feeling because you have to be positive, but you're not allowing yourself to process, that's so unhealthy. It's like a pressure cooker, isn't it?
Hmm.
You're turning up the heat, you're turning up the heat, you're turning up the heat, but you're ignoring it. The heat's going higher and higher and higher, but we're not giving it any attention. You've got to find a way to release the pressure, otherwise it explodes.
Right. And as you say that, what's coming to my mind is it's not I am happy, it's I am feeling happy. It's not I am sad, it is I am feeling sad. It's almost like separating the emotion from the I am, because it is at the end of the day a feeling. That's not
Yeah.
you. You are feeling that.
It's almost like disidentifying from the
Hmm.
feeling.
Yes.
Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am. Are you your feeling?
No, you're feeling the feeling.
You're
You're
feeling the feeling, yeah.
in that moment. So I know I asked you this question, but we have a few people who've joined in just now, and I think it would be nice if you could share with us some coping mechanisms for those of us. Like some of us, maybe it's a cultural thing, or I don't know what it is, but for some of us, it's difficult to go through those emotions of anxiety or fear or panic or whatever it might be, because we're taught to be in control. So, what about for those people? What are some things they can do for themselves? Of course, rising above the need to be positive, all of that is fine. But how do you even process those? Some things that they could do for themselves. One or two tips, or
Your questions are so beautiful and powerful. Join me though. We love bouncing ideas. So
yes,
you mentioned appreciation and gratitude. I think that is hugely beneficial. If you can find three things in your day, every single day, to be grateful for, to live in gratitude, that is a beautiful way to support those of us that can't express
yep,
all the pent up, the harder emotions. I hate saying negative emotions because they shouldn't be classed as negative, but there are those that are uncomfortable. So when you're feeling uncomfortable emotions, sadness, anger, jealousy, frustration, guilt,
yeah, big one.
right? There's reasons why we're feeling those things. So in terms of processing them, looking at the root cause of it, why am I feeling this way? Go within. That's a different technique, but to question why. But before you're even ready to do that, if you're not ready to do that, then you know, being in gratitude and appreciation is huge. Walking in nature is a
Yes.
beautiful, powerful way to just connect with something outside of ourselves. You know, walking in amongst the trees, near water. I love to go and watch the ocean, and to just breathe it in, or listening to music that really gets
Good.
gets you excited, whatever it is that the state is that you choose to be in or need to be in to move forward. Listening to music. I love speaking to people. So this conversation, before we went live, Rukia got a
Yeah.
little
Yes.
sneak peek into me, and this was not how I arrived. But being
Yeah.
with you and talking to you was a complete lifeline.
Thank you.
So that's one of the things I would suggest for people is reach out. You would be amazed at how many people are struggling with the same things or different things to you. And if you show vulnerability, even just a little bit, or you reach out and say, I'm having a really hard day, I could really do with whatever it is that you could do with a coffee, a walk, someone to talk to, people would really be happy to oblige. So reach out to somebody, go and be in nature, listen to some music or something that really makes your heart sing. Plug into whatever it is that inspires you. Inspiration is packed with pure positive energy. And in the moment that we're inspired, we're just alive. So
True.
when you're in the darkest place, plug into whatever it is that inspires you. My son, he's actually in the room next door and he's just come out of his room, but was going through a really dark time during lockdown. And he asked if he could buy himself a ukulele, which I would call a baby guitar, but it's actually an instrument, all of its very own. And he taught himself to play the ukulele. And then he moved up to a guitar, and now he's moved up onto a keyboard. And that has been for him a lifeline. He's not a musician, he's never studied music, but he loves to listen to it. And he finds that playing music is something that helps him as well. Artists, there are a lot of people who are not doing the things that they love to do. And that's a brilliant, beautiful way to support you in processing what you're feeling. In a healthy way, and to move past it. So we talked about acknowledging,
Yes.
without judgment. We talked about reaching out and connecting with what you can, with who you can, to process. And then there's obviously those other things that then help you to move out of those emotions. And choose. It's a choice. You can choose at any moment to shift.
Absolutely. I like that about reaching out to people, but also being mindful that who to reach out to. Because sometimes people don't get what you're going through. And I don't know, it could also backfire. So just being mindful of who you're actually reaching out to and being just protective of what you're feeling. Writing down what you're feeling, identifying the emotion, journaling it out, and understanding why you're feeling. And you did touch upon it, understanding why you're feeling that way and what you could do in that moment. What's that one little thing that you could do in that moment to move past that, or even to kind of absorb what you're feeling and make it part of you? Because it isn't about, this is the emotion and this is me and it has to be two separate. What if it could be integrated? And then what if you could see yourself whole while that's integrated into you? And that makes such a big difference. So
beautiful. I love journaling. I second the journaling by 50 million. It's such a valuable, beautiful way. And it's incredible if you ask yourself a question about yourself, how the answer just flows. It's almost like you're having a conversation with another person, but it's a person it's you speaking to your higher self through the journaling. It's really, really beautiful.
And as you say, journaling, my daughter got me a journal for Brendan Bashad's journal, the planner, the high performance planner. She got that for me on my birthday, and she has also bought me the whole course, and she's given me the password. She's registered me. She's got me the password, and she says, "I'm going to keep checking on you to see how much progress you made." And I said, "Okay, go for it." And very recently, I wasn't making very much progress. And so she said, "Oh, we have a check-in call, and we need to get an understanding of how far you've gone." And I kind of, felt like that really bad student in class. And I said, "I haven't made much progress." And she said, "Why?" It's because the first question that he asks in the book is, "What are you excited about in the day?" And I don't feel excited. I'm just missing you guys so much. I mean, I was going through those week 1 of December, when Australia initially said it's going to open up borders, and then suddenly Omicron showed up and everything kind of closed. So I just went through that slump. So she says, "I understand. Take your time. We'll touch base after a month." So reminds me I need to buck up again. but yeah, I mean, asking the right question is also so super important when you're journaling. if you're feeling low, asking yourself why you are, what would make you excited, why might not be the right question. Maybe addressing why you're feeling low, and then just looking deeper and understanding what could comfort you in that moment, and then doing that stuff.
In a coaching context, the great question is, where is this coming from? Like, what's driving this feeling?
Yes.
What is driving this feeling? And that opens up a huge unexpected path to getting really down to the root of it.
True that. And just before you leave, we have a question. What's the difference between choice and decision?
Wow, that's a question.
Yes, that is a question.
Good question. Brilliant, beautiful question. They're very closely connected, aren't they? Choice and decision. So for me anyway, and you probably have your own insight into this fabulous question. A choice for me is, and it's a very subtle, isn't it? They're so similar. A choice would be, I suppose you are looking at something and you're picking it. I guess they're the same in a lot of ways. They're very, very similar. I'm like really struggling to differentiate, but I think a decision is more decisive. It's a commitment.
It feels more firm. It feels more like, but I think with the choice, it's more flexible. I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe because of the word.
Choice is kind of there up in the air, whereas a decision is a concrete, it's like with a decision comes action.
Okay.
For me, if you decide on something, that's it. You're concrete, you're fully committed to something in your decision. It's so full of clarity. A decision is clear. And you're moving forward, and choosing is the same, but it's less definitive in a way. I'm great at choosing, but for me, making decisions is a little bit more tricky, which is very strange because I know exactly what I want. But I'm like, still by choosing, you're right. It's like a bit more fluid in its way. I wonder. It's a great question.
I think we should think about it and then decide what our answer is going to be.
Well, I don't know. I think you're right. Choosing is picking, right? You're picking one thing over another thing. And deciding is then taking it into your being and making it.
Yeah,
not
making
your
it
being,
part of you.
but deciding is complete.
Yes.
Almost they go together. Oh, don't they? You have to choose first and then you decide. Choosing is a stage before decision, maybe.
That's what I said. We have to choose what we're going to say and then decide that's what we're going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting because I like what you said. Choosing is between two things, or making a choice is something that is a process, and then once it's done, that's your decision. That's what you present as. This is what it is. Interesting. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I felt choice was more of an internal conversation, whereas when it's decision, it's more like the announcement or the external decision that you've made.
Maybe it's an external manifestation of the thing that you're deciding on the inside, as you've said. And also, choice is more empowering in certain ways. It's funny because if you're an action coach, decisions are things. You make a decision, you act on the decision. It's very, maybe more masculine. Choice is more feminine of the same thing in a sense, in its softness. But choice gives you more autonomy over the world that you're in. You have choice.
Yes.
And you know what, you can make a decision and you can choose to change that decision at any time as well. Absolutely. I guess.
Interesting, isn't it?
What a great question. I am now, what's going to happen? I'm going to go and start to really
look into it.
Look into those words. It's very cool.
Okay, we have inputs coming in. Choose from the available options and decide what to do with the choice that we pick, maybe.
Yes. Love it. Very similar to what you'd said.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely.
So great. Thank you for giving us a choice between decisions to make. And great. It looks like we've given great insights. So thank you so much for that question that had us split between what a decision and choices, but definitely worth looking into, definitely worth looking up and understanding. For me, that's what it meant, a little bit more flexibility when it comes to making choices. And
Mhm.
somehow decision just feels more authoritative and firm coming
I
from
think,
the external.
yeah, in terms of creating and manifesting and, well, not manifesting, but moving things forward in a practical, goals-oriented space, you have to make decisions and you have to move forward. But
Mm,
before you can decide, there's that choice. There's that other one of your the beautiful people said is that it's actually the choice of before the decision. And you said
mm,
it as well. Comes beforehand. Yeah,
thank
beautiful.
you. Lovely. So thank you very much. Did you realize it's an hour already? And
Wow. Had the best time. It's been
thank
such
you.
fun with you. Your questions are magnificent.
Thank you.
Um, and everyone who added to the conversation, thank you so, so, so much. It's
Thank you.
really enriching to have that extra input as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you again.
You for giving us your time because it was literally like plucking you out from your busy day, kind of like kidnapping you from your day and enjoying you for an hour. Thank you so much for the lovely insights, the wisdom, and so much of authenticity and honesty
Thank you
in the
so much.
conversation.
Please
Thank you.
pluck me again. I could really do with this every week in my day, but um,
Let's
you know.
let's do that again.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you, everybody who's joining us on the live, and we'll catch up on replay. Have a wonderful rest of the day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. I'll see you again next week with a wonderful conversation. I'm just going to share all the thank yous coming in. Thanks, Rooks. My friend calls me Rooks. Thanks, Rooks, for yet another lovely topic. She adds to say, thank you so much, Ronit. Great inputs, lots of learning, profound session. And Kanan says, great insights. Thanks a tons. And thank you so much, everybody. And I will catch you next week. Until then, good night, goodbye. Have a great
Oh,
rest of the day.
bye.
Bye bye.